Hey, what's up you guys? I'm going to start the build video on my 3D plane that I designed. It's just a 3D profile plane. Here I already cut out some of the main pieces from the plans. Here's the wing. I'll do that in the next video. Some of the tools of the trade here. It's got some razor knives, an X-Acto knife, some metal rulers. The electronics I'll be using for this is a Detrum. It's a combo kit you get from hobbyparts.com. You probably see the model number there. Got a 25 amp ESC, 810 kV motor, 4 9-gram servos, and it runs a 10 by 4.7 propeller. Like I said, it comes in a combo kit. You'll see it on hobbyparts.com. It's for 3D planes. Alright, I'm going to jump right into this. Here we got our main fuselage. This is the other part of the main fuselage. Now you guys can use four servos with this build or 3 servos. I'm just going to use 3 because I like to save on weight. So I'm going to install the servo in the center of the wing here. Alright, let's jump right into this. I'm going to go ahead and start cutting out some of these pieces. Now for a lot of these pieces, they're just straight cuts. And I'm using just standard dollar store foam board, white. Now what I like to do is I'll go ahead and cut out the main fuselage here, but I'll go ahead and cut around this rudder because I like to make the rudder on a separate piece of foam board, and I'll show you why in a little bit. But here we got our hinge line, and you got to make a 45-degree angle cut for where the rudder attaches. So I'm going to cut a 45 toward the front of the plane. The rest is just a straight cut. I'm going to build this plane and use all these electronics here. I'm running a 3-cell 1300 milliamp 25C LiPo. But I'm going to use these electronics, and I'll get you a flight video when I get this plane assembled. Alright, for some of these sharp radiuses, I use the X-Acto knife on this stuff. Most of the time I just like to go ahead and freehand it. Then for some of the straight planes, that's when you break out the ruler. And now, before I cut out the main fuselage here, you can see I got cut out here. This is where your main wing is going to slide in with your KF airfoil. And this will be the cutout for the servo. So I'm going to go ahead and cut this stuff out right now. Before I cut out the rest of this. You want to be pretty precise on cutting on the line here. I want all my pieces to fit nice and tight. Jump in here with an X-Acto knife. On the front of the wing, you're going to want a 45-degree angle on the bottom of the main wing, then a 45-degree angle on the top of your KF airfoil. We'll get to that when I assemble the wing. Like I said, I'm just using one servo to control both ailerons. You can use two servos, one on each aileron if you would like. And like I said, an X-Acto knife really gets in here real easy. When I cut my foam board, I always like to cut on top of like a throw carpet. It won't dull out your blade, and it works really good. Alright, let's go ahead and finish up cutting out this fuselage. Now the electronics that I suggest is just what I want to use. And can use, you know, whatever you prefer. For most of you guys, I'm sure if you're ordering any of these plans, I'm sure you have built quite a few planes. And you'll know what electronics you want to use. Alright, now I'm cutting out where these two pieces slide together, and that's what these cutouts are for here. And I'll show you here, I got right behind the where the elevator goes in the circle here, I have cut here. You're going to have to cut that in order to slide these two pieces together. So that's what that's for. But I'll get to that in a minute. It's pretty simple. Alright, now I'll use my X-Acto knife on where the elevator runs through here. Give it a little saw action. Alright, give this a once over, make sure I got all my pieces cut right. Looks pretty good. Sometimes if you don't cut all the way through, guys, you might have to come back and trim up a little bit on it. Alright, there's our first piece. I always like to put my plans to the side in case I gotta go back and find where some of these pieces go on. Alright, now out of here. And like I said, that cut is going to be where these two pieces are going to slide together. So I'm going to go ahead and cut it right now. And all I do is just line it up with that. Just make a cut like that, so you can see your tails. So I'll be able to spread this out and slide that other piece on. Now I can look and see where I gotta. This is why I like to keep my plans in case you miss any cuts or anything, which I did. Go ahead and notch out some more of these lines that I made here. You can flip over and see where you missed. Now that's for your KF airfoil and your servo. Great thing about building these things out of dollar store foam board is if you crash, it ain't no big thing. You know, just build another one. Alright, there's our main part of our main fuselage. I'll get back into cutting this other half. And here you can see you got the servo cut out. So I'm going to go ahead and I like to cut out these pieces first before I go cutting around it. Make sure I get these nice and tight here. And I'll go ahead and cut out for the servo. Alright, now let's get to the main. Again, this is all just straight cuts I'm doing around the two main fuselage pieces. And again, for the elevator on this, I'm going to cut the elevator out of a separate piece of foam board. And I'll show you why in a second. Alright, so for the elevator, you want to take and cut a 45-degree angle again on your hinge line here toward the front of the plane. Out of here. Alright, so make sure you save your plans here, because I'm going to cut this elevator and the rudder out of a separate piece of foam board. And like I said, you can flip these things, flip your foam board over, you can always see where you missed some of this paper. Now you can see why I made this cut back here, because this has got to be able to slide on here. And I may have to do a little bit of trimming sometimes to get this to slide all the way up. The nose nice and even. And then once I go to assemble this, I'll just take and hot glue that back together. And I'll always just assemble these two pieces, and I'll just go back and hot glue right on both sides all the way around it, but we'll get to that in a little bit. Alright, so there's our main fuselage. Now let's get into this elevator. Now like I said, I like to take these plans. I'll just go ahead and pull it off here right now. There's my elevator. Then we got our rudder. Now this foam board, when you cut your pieces out, it's stronger when you go the width of the foam board. And I'll show you why here. This foam board has, I don't know if you can see it, but there's ripples in it, and the pieces are stronger when you go with the ripples. I don't know if you can see them there. So if you want your piece to be stronger, like your elevator or your rudder, instead of going with the lines, you want to go opposite of the lines. So I would turn this piece like this. Let's go ahead and cut these two out. So it was on the plans like this. I'm going to take and turn it like this. Let me get it over here, tape it down. tape on it for now. And the same thing for the rudder. I'm going to turn my rudder against the grain here, basically. Alright, I'm going to go ahead and finish cutting these out. Now on the elevator, we 45-degree cut toward the front. On the elevator now, you're going to want a 45-degree back cut. And that way you got movement for your elevator to go up and down. So I'll just take and put this here and back cut it. And then the rest is just a straight cut. Sometimes I try to rush through these videos so I ain't got to make 3 or 4 of them. Hoping to get this done in maybe 2. Now to make this elevator strong in this point, I have here, I got these little popsicle sticks that I pick up from craft store. When I finish up this elevator, I'll go ahead and install a couple of popsicle sticks. One on top, one on bottom. And that way your elevator's nice and strong in this weak point here. There's our elevator. Let's get onto the rudder. Now again, with your rudder, you're gonna want to back cut the 45-degree angle cut. And then the rest is just straight cuts. Like I said, if you ever feel you didn't go all the way through, let me see, I missed here, so go ahead and relay my plans back on it. Put all my plans off to the side. I'm not going to assemble these pieces yet, because I'm going to hot glue everything. I'm also going to install my popsicle sticks on the weak point of the elevator. I'll do that using the hot glue gun. But right now I just want to make sure all my pieces fit and work. Now where we cut out for this, you always want to go back. You can see where this thing is a tight fit on both ends. So you can always go back and trim out. Show you what I do here. Just taking trim off like maybe a 1/16 on both sides of it. This will give you enough clearance so you don't get no rubbing going on. See, I forgot to pull the sticker off the foam board. Alright, now that'll give us enough clearance so it won't rub when your elevator's moving up and down. Just do a quick test fit. Now like that. Like I said, sometimes it's a little tricky working with these pieces. Alright, I'm going to go ahead and hot glue my popsicle sticks on my elevator. Just take and center them on there. This is going to give us some strength in this weak spot. Really joins the two halves together. Go ahead and center it. I like to go ahead and press them nice and tight together. Now the elevator's nice and strong and ain't gonna break in that point. Alright, same thing with your rudder. I'll take and cut some clearance so the two pieces don't rub. I'm gonna go ahead and cut off like a 1/16 on this. So that way when you join these, you'll get movement without the rubbing. Hey, what's up you guys? I'm going to start the build video on my 3D plane that I designed. It's just a 3D profile plane. Here I already cut out some of the main pieces from the plans. Here's the wing. I'll do that in the next video. Some of the tools of the trade here. Just got some razor knives, an X-Acto knife, some metal rulers. The electronics I'll be using for this is a Detrum. It's combo kit you get from hobbyparts.com. You probably see the model number there. Got a 25 amp ESC, 810 kV motor, 4 9-gram servos, and it runs a 10 by 4.7 propeller. Like I said, it comes in a combo kit. You'll see it on hobbyparts.com. It's for 3D planes. Alright, I'm going to jump right into this. Here we got our main fuselage. This is the other part of the main fuselage. Now you guys can use four servos with this build or 3 servos. I'm just going to use 3 because I like to save on weight. So I'm going to install the servo in the center of the wing here. Alright, let's jump right into this. These electronics, and I'll get you a flight video when I get this plane assembled. Alright, for some of these sharp radiuses, I use the X-Acto knife on this stuff. Most of the time I just like to go ahead and freehand it. Then for some of the straight lines, that's when you break out the ruler. And you got to make a 45-degree angle cut for where the rudder attaches. So I'm going to cut a 45 toward the front of the plane. The rest is just a straight cut. I'm going to build this plane and use all these electronics here. I'm running a 3-cell 1300 milliamp 25C LiPo. But I'm going to use these. I'm going to go ahead and start cutting out some of these pieces. Now for a lot of these pieces, they're just straight cuts. And I'm using just standard dollar store foam board, white. Now what I like to do is I'll go ahead and cut out the main fuselage here, but I'll go ahead and cut around this rudder because I like to make the rudder on a separate piece of foam board. And I'll show you why in a little bit. But here we got our hinge line.